Today, we're going to be looking at some of the most unique UFC records and giving our takes on who we think could possibly beat them. Dylan, what are your thoughts on this?
Nobody can beat half of these, but we're giving it our best chance. And there may be one guy or two guys that get repeated a lot because they're the top young dogs in the UFC.
I tried to go with some rogue shouts. Because there is some of these ones where it's about longevity. Some of these young guys could end up beating it. So
that is true.
I just said some of these young guys could end up beating it. That's crazy. All right, let's get into our very first record. We have the most UFC wins, starting off pretty basic. Jim Miller at 27.
Old man. And he's going to keep going. We're just retired, dude. Retire so someone can beat this.
Yeah, when I saw this, the amount of time you'd have to be in the UFC, I don't even know if it's possible because these guys just don't fight as much anymore. Mm-hmm. They're only fighting 2 times a year. So yeah. My pick was Max Holloway.
Ooh, good show. Good show.
He currently has 22 wins in the UFC. And I was doing the math and I'm like, okay, he's turning 33. Does he have 6 more years? Probably. I think he has 10 more fights. Let's say he gets 7 more wins. He's beat it.
Yeah, exactly. My guy I went with the most wins, Charles Adu Bronx Oliveira. I just more want to see that one, and I had Max Holloway for other things, so I was like, you know what, Charles already has a bunch of awards, so it's not like he can go and beat himself. Yeah. So we're going to go with Charles for this one. I think he's at 22 or 23 like Max Holloway, and realistically, it's only 6 more fights, depending on how many more fights Jim Miller wins. But a younger guy you could potentially give a good show to, maybe like a Tatsuro Taira, because flyweights can turn around quicker.
Yeah.
But if he's at the top as the champion, it's kind of hard. That's one thing is you have to take into account champions aren't going to fight that much compared to these guys who are lower down. So
yeah, you have to find the balance of high level people who can actually get wins, but also they're not in the rankings. So I feel like Max Holloway could have a lot of fun fights still.
We're just going to say Charles Johnson for everything.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to record number 2. We have most title fight wins. John Jones at 16.
No one. No. I have one.
It's crazy, dude. This stat, it does kind of justify him as the GOAT. This stat alone.
And so we recently posted a short on all of our platforms that was me blind ranking the UFC GOATs, and the amount of people who hated on John Jones being a number 1.
What?
Yeah, because they're like, he can't be the GOAT when he was cheating, when he was hitting people with his car, and I was like, dude, get over it.
That's not what GOAT means.
Yeah, he's the greatest of all time.
At the sport.
Yes, exactly. Not at
and
life.
at hit and runs.
Not at life. Not at hitting your wife.
All right, so my pick, this is completely rogue. I just think it's someone who's the youngest champion in the UFC right now and who has the most potential to have a legacy. I went with Ilia Topuria, but he's only at 2 title fight wins right now.
I also went with Ilia being at 2, but he's really the only shot you got.
It's crazy, dude.
He's just young. He's 28?
Yeah, 27.
Yeah, and he's got to do it for 7 years, basically. Have 2 fights a year.
Yeah.
And what if John Jones goes out and beats Tom? I thought about Tom just because but the interim wins don't count.
Yeah, I think looking back on his legacy, I think people will count that because it's only he won an interim and then Curtis Blades and then that's 2. Yeah. I would add that on.
And then if he goes and beats Jones, that's 3.
Yeah.
So then
he just repeatedly, it's like clearing waves of it's like a video game.
Just beats the same top 5 every single week.
Yeah, exactly. It's like on UFC 5 where you just have to cycle through the same top 5 opponents.
Oh, I don't want to fight Jared Cannonier for the 18th time, guys.
For the belt too.
Yeah.
All right. If you guys have any suggestions for that one, Ilia was the only one who I can think of because everyone else is going to retire soon.
The one I thought about too was another guy I'm really high on. I just mentioned before, Tyra being 24 and being that high level. If he got the championship, but it's he could get it by 26, and then can you win 15, 16 title fights? I
don't know.
It's crazy.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to record number 3, the most knockouts in UFC history. You guys probably already know who this one is. It's Derek Lewis at 15. Who could beat it, Dylan?
I went with Ilia Topuria
I also went with Ilia Topuria again.
This is the guy I was mentioning before. When we were planning this video, I texted Lucas. I was like, let me know why I have Ilia Topuria for all 14 of these records. He's just going to do it all.
Yeah, so right now he's at 5 knockouts in the UFC already. I think there's a good chance he has 15, 20 more fights in the UFC, and at least 10 of those are going to be knockouts.
Especially like if he moves up to lightweight in the future too, like just even more power behind those hands and that are already so powerful.
Yeah, and I think it's like he's so consistent with his KOs. I was surprised that there wasn't like as many heavyweights up there. I think Tom could be up there.
I thought about Tom, but Ilya's pound for pound more powerful.
Because Tom is probably at about 5 as well.
He would be around there.
Yeah.
But the thing is with both of them too is that they both do have submissions too, but I was confident in Ilya a little bit more than Tom.
Yeah, they both have submission wins in the UFC. I was like, guys, can you like try and pad this stat more? I need you to start finishing them.
We can't look back on this in 10 years and be like 0 for 14.
Yeah, we probably will be. But all right, let's move on to record number 4. This one honestly might be the most unbreakable record yet. The youngest UFC champion, Jon Jones, at 23 years old. What?
They just don't come up that young anymore. Like, I
wish they did.
Like, even if you look at like the top up and coming guy, Peyton Talbot, 26.
Yeah.
So
Tyra, 24.
Yeah.
Ilya, 27. Like, they aren't that young anymore. It's crazy.
The good old days.
We're getting canceled, man. So who do you have to beat this, Dylan?
You know what I wrote down?
Who?
Chiwiwi, I guess.
I wrote down Chiwiwi as well. He's currently unranked. That's my notes for this. He literally doesn't have a ranking.
But he's 19.
I know.
So he's got 4 years, goes on some crazy run. We have a striker as a champion at that point. Maybe.
It's the only possibility. There's only like 4 or 5 actual fighters on the roster right now.
Under 23. It's like Joshua Van.
A couple, yeah.
There's the one Japanese flyweight that's unranked. I thought about him, but I just don't think he'd get up in time.
No, it's like Chiwiwi's has the hype behind him. These other guys don't even have name value yet. So most likely than not, if Chiwiwis get some big wins, they're going to push him.
Yeah.
And they're going to be like, can he become the youngest UFC champion? No.
Well, he's like 1 win away from fighting in the rankings. Or you never know. Maybe he's fighting a Rob Font next fight.
We've also seen like, or Kyler Phillips. We've also seen a bunch of people being moved up into the rankings without actually fighting into the rankings when they have name value like Mick Parkin and Waldo Cortez Acosta. So you never know. Let's move on to record number 5. Most takedowns in a single fight. It's Khabib, of course, at 21 takedowns.
This one was one that there was a few guys.
Yeah.
But I went with not one of the champions who I thought it could have been. I thought maybe Bilal, maybe Merab. I went with Khamzat Chimaev just because I feel like he could do that against like a Sean Strickland or a Dricus, like someone that's not going to give up, and like it's going to be a 5-round fight where I think Merab and Bilal just kind of they'll take him down a few times and lay on him.
That's fair.
Merab's a good shout though.
I did go with Merab in the end. I think Khamzat, I didn't actually think about Khamzat, but that's smart because if he's younger and if he does get into like a title fight, that's 5 rounds. He has a game plan, and it's just to take people down. Yeah. And if you have someone like Dricus who can survive, but just like repeatedly gets taken down.
Ultimate resilience. Choke me out. Choke me out.
Yeah, that's what he said to his coach last night. But yeah, Khabib honestly probably has this record pretty locked in. And I couldn't even find anyone that was close to 21 takedowns in a UFC fight.
It's just Khabib.
Yeah. All right. Record number 6. Longest winning streak without a title fight. Surprisingly, it's Leon Edwards right now at a 10-fight win streak. There was Bilal who got either tied that or got really close to it, and Merab was also really close to it, but now they have belts. So, Dylan, who do you have beating this stat?
I have Movsar Evloev. Do you have
Come
Movsar?
On, bro. I have Movsar.
Because he's at 8 right now.
Yeah. 9 if he beats Aljo.
Yeah, and then realistically, I think that
he needs one more.
Yeah, and Lopez will have the next fight. So then ties it at 10, and you never know. Maybe someone else is up there by then.
Do you see those rumors that Lopez is going to be fighting
Josh Emmett?
Please no. Dude, if it's Josh Emmett derails the hype train, I'm going to kill myself.
The thing is, though, Josh Emmett is such a scary matchup. Like, go fight someone else. Go fight Arnold Allen.
Yeah, someone who can't KO you in one punch.
Yeah. I don't love it, but at the same time, Taporia beat Josh Emmett, so Lopez go beat Josh Emmett.
100%. That's a good comparison.
A banger fight night. Main event.
Mexico?
Oh.
He's so hyped.
Dude, imagine Lopez versus Yair as a fight night main event.
I know. They need to get Yair on a real
He's
card.
He's just dead. Like you're about to get kicked from the rankings, dog.
All right. Next up, record number 7. Most significant strikes landed in a single fight. Max Holloway at 445 versus Calvin Kattar. It's a classic. Who could beat it? I have Max Holloway again versus Dan Hooker at lightweight.
Ooh.
I think there's a real possibility Dan Hooker doesn't get KO'd because he's just a dog. And also, it's going to be on the feet the whole time. Dan Hooker's not going to shoot a takedown. But I also think he could be outclassed by Max Holloway in the boxing.
Yeah, I think that's a fair shot. Like, obviously, if anyone's going to beat it, the chances of it being Max Holloway are probably the highest. I went with another guy who's similar, great boxer, smaller weight class. I went with Sugar Sean O'Malley. Just because, like, what we saw against Cheeto Vera.
Yeah.
Got off a lot of strikes, but
I wonder how much he landed in that.
I think it was like 3 something. Like,
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive, actually.
So,
it's probably up there.
yeah, I think it's in the top 10.
Wow.
But 445 is a lot.
I know. And even in the Topuria Holloway fight, they were saying after the first 2 rounds, he had already thrown 200 plus strikes. Like, this dude's just different.
Yeah.
His volume is different. All right, let's move on to record number 8. Fastest knockout. Jorge Masvidal currently holds the record, and I believe it's 5 seconds. That's
It
what
is
I have
5
written down
seconds.
here. Versus, of course, the legend himself, Ben Askren. I have a scenario to beat this. Okay, so we all know that Ilia Topuria pointed at the ground versus Max Holloway, and Max Holloway did not engage. But there's one man who said that he would engage with that stand and bang at the beginning of the first round. His name's Diego Lopez. So I went with Diego Lopez to KO Ilia Topuria before 5 seconds.
That's, you know what, that's a good show. I thought about some comical ones. Like, we could go with a Chris Barnett wheel kick first thing to knock someone out.
Yeah.
I could see Derek Lewis just having like a one punch KO or like a
100%.
high kick.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I went with a guy who has an under 20-second knockout. I went with Peyton Talbot again.
Okay.
Just because right now he's fighting plumbers, so all he really needs is one punch on those plumbers.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's this one you could literally pick anyone.
Yeah, you could pick anyone and they do have a chance.
Yeah.
Maybe not some guys. Bilal's not doing this.
If Bilal beats a 5-second KO record, I'll take my pants off on YouTube. That's a deal.
Come on, Bilal, please.
All right, let's move on to record number 9. This one I'm interested to hear your thoughts on. Most fights in a calendar year. Roger Huerta at 5 times in 2007. Dylan, who could beat it?
I have Charles Johnson.
Okay, that's fair. He's
Because he
at,
did it 5
Did he?
or maybe it was in a, like, I don't know if it was in a calendar year. I think it was in a year.
It was in 12 months.
It was in 12 months he had 5.
Yeah, that's a good shout.
Because I thought, like, obviously there's guys like Lopez, but now that Lopez is higher up in the rankings,
That's the thing.
he was my runner up because
Yeah.
he's not going to fight 5 times now that if he's a number 1 contender.
Imagine 5 title defenses in 1 year. Cooking.
The UFC would love this guy.
So I went with a certain somebody who we're big fans of on this channel. We're actually trying to get him as a guest right now. Shara Magomedov.
Ooh, that's a good shout.
Okay, here's my reasoning. They're doing more Abu Dhabi cards, and you know that he's a staple of every Abu Dhabi card. He spawns in, he shows up on the main card of every Abu Dhabi. Now he's in the rankings, so it might be difficult, but I think that the verbally agreement matchup versus Michael Venom Page, it does show that he's still willing to fight like outside of the rankings, which is kind of dope. So I think he's a dog. It's a possibility. He wants to get paid. Fair enough.
If Shara beats MVP, how high does he go in the middleweight rankings? They put him at 4 above Whitaker.
What, MVP? MVP isn't even a.
I know he's what the 15th ranked welterweight.
I think he might have gotten demoted. Yeah, 15. That would be wild.
They're gonna push him all the way up.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next record. Number 10, most submission wins in UFC history. Charles Oliveira at 16. This is another one that's going to be maybe impossible to beat. But I went with Islam Makhachev, who is currently at 7. I do genuinely think he could do this. The only issue is he's going to retire early.
Yeah,
He's talked about it already. He wants to equal Khabib's, legacy.
So one more fight.
Yeah, pretty much. No, he wants to get the welterweight belt for sure. Maybe do a couple more title defenses. Then he just wants to live.
Go train up 200,000
Kill me.
Dagestani children to be the next generation of UFC.
They're gonna make their own organization. They should.
DFC, Dick City Fighting Championship.
I knew you were thinking something up in that brain of yours.
Just took me a couple minutes to get it out. For my most submission wins, I went with the guy I'm high on. 18 wins, 18 finishes. I went with Shavkat.
There isn't a single video that we can get through without saying that stat.
Dude, just like the way that this guy chokes people out.
Yeah.
he's looking for the finish, and
It's more likely that he's going to get a submission than a KO as well, I think.
Yeah, like he does get KOs and mixes it up, but so does Charles, so.
And the thing is, in welterweight, there's a lot more strikers, so I think he has a better shot submitting them.
And he's only 30, so 6 more years, even though this guy fights once a year.
Yeah.
Fight, mother trucker, fight.
Yeah, that's a good shout, though. Do you know what he's at right now?
I think he's at...
Is he at 4 or 3?
Yeah, inside the UFC, I think 4.
Yeah, that's tough. All right, let's move on to record number 11. Most decision wins. Surprisingly, it's Neil Magny.
At 14 or 15?
Yeah, 14. So I have one of the obvious picks to beat it. I went with Merab again. He's currently at 10 already, and he's only 32-ish.
I thought Merab was old as dirt.
Or is he 34?
Merab's 36, isn't he? Or is
No,
that Bilal?
that's Bilal. Bilal's 36. I think Merab might be 34 to 32 in that range. No, he's not 32. He looks older. But yeah, I don't know. He's going to decision pretty much everyone. And I think that if he loses the belt, the UFC's not going to give him another shot immediately. So he could fight maybe 2 more people down in the rankings and just easily get decision wins over them. So I think it's very real that he's going to get up to 14.
Yeah. I had a couple guys I considered. I considered a guy like Drickus just because he's 30 still and he does tend to go to decisions, even though he does get obviously knockouts and submission wins. But I ultimately went with Pantoja.
Oh, okay.
I think he's got about 5 or 6 right now. That sounds about right. And
Yeah.
he's not super old and flyweight. He does tend to fight, especially if he loses that belt. He could fight 2, maybe even a 3rd time every year, and just kind of. He is the master of the 4th and 5th rounds, so.
Yeah.
Get those decision wins.
Yeah, and he has good pacing. Like, if he does start fighting in 3 rounds fights as well.
Oh, 3-round Pantoja wouldn't know what to do. He'd be like, I have so much energy. Yeah. Give me a second fight.
All right, let's move on to record number 12. Fight night bonuses, 20 for Charles Oliveira. He just actually passed that. He made over $1 million in fight night bonuses, which isn't that much thinking about it.
Yeah.
Feels like he deserves more for what he's done. But nonetheless, I went with Max Holloway to beat it. Now, here's my reasoning. He's currently at 13 fight night bonuses. He needs 7 more. I think he has at least 10 more fights in the UFC. He's only turning 33. And I think 7 of those are probably going to be bangers. They're going to be bonuses. If you put Max Holloway on a card, you're putting him on a card to get a performance bonus.
That's true. He's there to.
But then again, so is Charles.
Yeah.
Right?
And Charles is going to keep on bumping this number up.
So annoying.
Especially when he beats Islam. Yeah. My fight night bonuses. 18 wins, 18 finishes.
Shut up, bro.
Shavkat Rakhmonov. When he's going out there to strictly get finishes, he's not at that many right now just because hasn't had a ton of fights in the UFC. He is 30, but 6, 7, 8 more years, 2 fights a year. He's at 3 or 4, I think, right now. I think most of his fights in the UFC, he does get the fight night bonus.
Yeah.
Just because of how dominant he looks. But I think it's a good shout, especially because I love Shavkat.
Yeah. Oh, man. If he gets finished by Ian Gary, we're canceling this channel. It's over.
Oh.
Record number 13. Longest UFC win streak. Of course, it's Anderson Silva at 16. Yikes. That's going to be difficult to beat it. But there is one man, and Dylan, surely you have the same person. It's Islam Makhachev on a 14-fight win streak right now.
Yeah, I have Islam.
Yeah, it has to be. Because he's probably going to get a win over Armin, and then if he defends against Charles, he's already there.
Yeah, he's the favorable matchup against Charles.
Yeah, and he could have already been there if he beat Martins in the only fight that he's lost in the UFC where he got KO'd. He would have been at 16 right now. Rip my boy. All right, let's move on to our last record. I've actually really enjoyed this video. This is one of my favorite videos.
This was fun just because, just got to go through it all.
It's a new concept. Number 14, we're going back to where it all began in this video. Jim Miller, total fights, 45 in the UFC. He said he's trying to get to 50.
And you know who's going to get to 51?
Who?
Bless Max Holloway.
Okay.
Is that not who you have?
No, I want someone completely rogue. Why'd you go with Max?
He's already at 30-ish fights, and I think he's going to fight for a while. He's the guy. He loves UFC so much,
Yeah.
He just loves to fight. He's going to be there for a while.
10 more years, 2 fights per year. Could do it for sure. I went with someone who is the youngest UFC fighter on the roster right now, so he has the most potential to keep fighting. I went with Raul Rosas Jr.
What do you mean he's going to retire by 25? I actually thought about Raul Rosas Jr. for that. He's going to retire by 25. What a casual.
This dude's
low-tier Chihuahua knowledge. Yeah, he's gonna retire at 10 fights.
We should do a tier list ranking every Chihuahuas that he's done.
Chewie.
All right.
Can we put some of my Chewies on there?
Yeah, he's currently at 5 wins in the UFC already, and he's only 20.
And he has 1 loss.
Yeah,
So 6 fights in the UFC.
it's possible. He only needs 40 more fights. We believe.
You're halfway there, young man.
All right, that's going to do it for this video. If we missed any records or if you guys want to see a part 2 of this video, we really want to do a part 2. This was a lot of fun. And thank you for all the support on our recent videos. Make sure you go down and subscribe because we post all the time.
Every day.
Every day, bro.
Peace.
See ya.